Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fahzaly Advice. I want to say thank you to all of you that have been supporting me, that have been watching this podcast, and have been listening. I truly hope that you have found value in what I've had to say, and it means the world to me that you do watch and that you do listen, and that you give me a moment of your time. Now, let's get on in to today's first submission, which comes to us from Living in Fear. And they write, Dear Fahza, this might be a bit far-fetched for such a calm podcast, but I hope that this can be covered. I am 15 and suffer from PTSD because I was nearly kidnapped. I am scared to leave the house and am paranoid all the time. I worry there are people out there to get me, and I want to overcome this. It happened when I was on a walk with my mate and ended with me and my mate thankfully unharmed physically, but hidden in a field from a van. Thanks if you could include this. Signed, Living in Fear. Alrighty then. Well, this one is a very, very big subject. First, I want to commend the submitter for their courage, for seeking help, and for surviving such a terrible event. That more than likely came from the intuition and the intelligence of both you and your friend in that situation to survive and to still be free to this day. And I am so very sorry that you, one so young, has to deal with something so heavy. To have to face a fear that no one should have to face. I am truly sorry that happened to you. But there are a few caveats that I have to say before I share anything. And the main thing is, please do remember that I am not a psychiatric professional. And when it comes to something this heavy, that is where I personally will bow out to. For something as heady as this needs professional help. And I know that's not as easy to find as saying it. But keep that in mind. And keep in mind that anything that I say here for this particular podcast should be taken with a grain of salt because of the fact that I am not a psychiatric professional. At best, I can hope that in compassion and experience, that what I say reaches you in some way that helps. But, like I stated earlier, ultimately, my highest and number one recommendation is seek professional help, especially when it comes to something as serious as PTSD. Post-traumatic stress syndrome is not something that you can get over easily. And there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with seeking help. There is nothing wrong with needing professional help. Despite what so many people in the world may still think today, despite how evolved we may believe we are. Mental health is something that needs to be addressed, faced, and maintained. And that's not easy to do alone. And there are instances where you will need help. And there's nothing wrong with that. Never feel ashamed about that. Alright? Now, You, my friend, are so courageous for bringing this forward. Because you are afraid, but you still are saying something and you still want to help. You want to do something about it. And that is what courage is. It's having a heart full of fear and still stepping forward. It is not about being fearless. The fearless are simply foolish, and they have nothing to be courageous for when they have no fear to face. So do not be ashamed of being afraid either. And I'm not saying that you do feel that. I'm saying that for the instances of those that do feel ashamed for their fear, because no one should ever feel that way. We are human. We have emotions and we have a mental scape that is constantly changing, and as I said, needs to be maintained, and it is not easy to navigate that scape. And for one so young to have to face something so terrible, I am sorry that you have been, for lack of a better terminology, robbed of part of your youth because of this. But simply by your actions, simply by speaking, you have strength. You do. And you survived that. That is something to be congratulated, to be celebrated, because you are still here today. You are free. And though you are in fear, you are alive and free. And because of that, you have the freedom to seek help. And because of the terminology that you have chosen to use here, when you spoke of your friend, I'm guessing that you are not from the United States, which is where I am from. Which does also make giving advice on this instance just a little bit more difficult, because the resource barrier between different nations is very different. And what one person may have access to, another person may not. So, hopefully, you do have access to some form of psychiatric help in some way, shape, or form, and that you can reach out and that you have these resources. If you need help, if you need that help to try and find that, if you want someone to at the very least try and make the effort, my friend, I encourage you to reach out, because I may not have the answer, but I will damn well sure try and help. But also, being so young, you have your parents. I'm not sure about your relationship with your parents, but I do hope that they are someone that you can reach out to. At the very least, there's somebody who makes you feel safe. And if they do, talk to them as well. Let them know about your concerns. Let them know that you need help. In this instance, in the instance of needing to find help, especially dealing with trauma in this instance, communication is key, just like in so many aspects in life. And it's gonna be difficult. It is. I'm not going to pull any punches here, my friend. You have a long and difficult road ahead of you to be able to gain the strength to overcome and have the tools to face your trauma. And I'm not telling you this because I want you to think that there is no hope or to despair, but I want you to have an idea of the reality that even if you face this, that even if you gain the tools, that fear will still be a part of you. But accepting it, accepting that it's going to be part of you as you move forward and gain those tools will make it easier to face time and time again, and you will be much stronger for it. And though what does not kill us does not make us stronger, does not always make us stronger. It may at times damage us. It is the healing from that damage that we gain strength. And it is an effort that we have to put into ourselves to be able to get to that point. And just because you get to that point doesn't mean all of this disappears. That's the reality. But it makes you ready to face it. It makes you able and capable of facing it. That is the resilience of being alive. That is what you can gain as you continue to push, as you continue to want to find a way to overcome your trauma. Because you can do that. You can. And though it may be a part of you, you will grow to use it in ways that you may never even believe that you could have before. Because you, my friend, are a survivor. And I'm not saying that this is a path that you have to take. But my friend, your story, and the fact that you are still here today, the fact that you survived, in itself is an inspiration and can be to many others. And that may be one of the driving forces that may help you overcome and may help you gain what you need and create something from this, something more than what you thought it could be. I'm not trying to take away from how horrible it was, because it was horrible. No one should ever have to face the fear of being taken by somebody. But it is from our stories and how we survive that we can teach others, that we can grow ourselves. And it adds to our story in more ways than one. And I know that nothing I say is really going to help. But I truly do hope that what I say gives you a bit of direction. Because I know how dark the road of trauma can be. I do. But you can overcome it. And it does get better. In a way that you may never have imagined before. But it starts with you taking the actions that you need to. You have plans, you have wants, but do not let them become nothing more than what you say. Let them evolve into what you will do, because only then will you move forward. Plans are good and well, but they don't mean anything until they become action. So if you want to overcome this, if you want to face this, then you need to take action. You need to communicate to the people who care about you and love you, and who are able to help you find the resources that you need. And never feel ashamed about that you need help. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with fear. There's nothing wrong with being human. There's nothing wrong with the fact that you are alive today and that you survived. Okay? Now, what I am also going to do, because this is an important subject, is you faced something that may have led into something horrible, and you were able to escape it. But there are those out there that have yet to. There are those out there that are trapped in it, in a nightmare that is known as human trafficking. Now, I'm not sponsored in any way, but this is something that is important to me and to many others. It is important to be able to know that there are resources out there for everyone. If you see anything happening, report it. If you know of anybody going through something, report it. Nobody alive, no human alive, deserves to live at the behest of another as nothing more than an object. And because of that, in the next portion, I will scroll through a number of resources as well as organizations that work towards ending human trafficking. I do hope that this helps in some way, and I do hope that this helps you, my friend, living in fear so that you can thrive and no longer be living in the shadow, my friend. And I appreciate your submission. I truly do. Thank you.
Well, hey there, everybody. Mr. Announcer and
Random Skull?
And we're here to let you know that asianfahzagamer also streams live on Twitch 5 days a week, and sometimes on YouTube.
And if you want to continue to support asianfahzagamer, check out the links for his Twitch and his YouTube, all in the link tree.
That's right. Check out those links.
Welcome back, everybody. I truly do hope that you found value in the information that I presented within our first segment, and know that if you have survived such an ordeal, that you are an inspiration to many, and that there are those that are grateful for your survival and for your continuation. And if you want to do something, if there's anybody out there that wants to do something, there are tools out there, there are resources, so that you may speak out, to tell your story, to inspire others, to continue to fight against those that would wish to subjugate the innocents for their own selfish and cruel needs. And I truly do appreciate the courage of those that speak and those that continue to survive. Now, let's continue with the second segment with our next submission, brought to us by Friend or Enemy. And they write, "Hi there, Fahza. I need advice on a 7-year-long friendship of mine. I don't know whether to call him a friend or not. For a bit of context, I'm in a group of friends, fluctuating throughout the years or even weeks. It changes a lot. I don't mind when people come and go, because they're nice to me. We have this main inside group that consists of myself and 4 others. One being the friend I am talking about today. Let's call him John. We talk like friends, we are like friends, but when he's around other people, it's like they have a bad influence on him, even though they're good people. For example, he used to bully me years ago, but we got past that, and now we joke about it. But in the presence of friends, when I mention it, he gets angry and lashes out. He even makes mean jokes towards me, like it's banter though, even though he gets angry when I do it back to him. Banter, right? What should I do? Drop a longtime friend and maybe ruin the friendship, or put up with it to not risk my friendship? Sincerely, friend or enemy? Well, friend or enemy? This is definitely a very complicated situation because, as I've stated many times in my podcast in previous episodes, every situation has context and nuance, and they need to be considered. And there is a lot of details that may not have been able to be shared in this submission. But I do want anybody that does listen to understand that if you do choose to submit to Fahzaly Advice, 1, it is of course 100% anonymous, and 2, there is no limit or size limit to the submission. So if there's more that you need to say or feel like you want to say, know that there's no size limit to the submission. Now, when it comes to this situation, there's a lot to be considered. The fact that you are a victim of his bullying behavior in the past, and from what it sounds like, still to this day. And I understand that you believe that y'all have moved past it, but from his actions and what you're describing here, it seems like John hasn't moved past it. That to him, in some way, in his mind, be it consciously or subconsciously, John still views you as nothing more than his victim, than an object that he can use to either help him feel valid or to use you as an object, as a emotional punching bag. And you deserve better than that. You should not sit there thinking that you need to be friends with somebody who treats you like this just because they are familiar with you, just because they're friendly with you at times. That's not what a friend is. It's not what a friend does. That's what an acquaintance does, an associate does. Not somebody whom you give a label such as friend. It is a very important label, and it is not one that you should give away so readily and easily just because you believe, or both of y'all believe, that you have moved past a certain stage, when the evidence is quite there within his actions that he's not really moved on. He's just moved on to a different stage of bullying. And that is something that John needs to realize and grow up from. They, more than likely, from what I can tell in this instance, just like every other bully, need help. Because they're crying out. They're crying out in the only way they can, by hurting others. Because they've been hurt, and the only way they know how to act is to hurt others. And in this instance, from what is being told here in this submission, I hate to say it, and I'm not saying this in a way that blames you, but you being there is not helping John's growth. It's giving validity to John's behavior. Because you're still there when you really shouldn't be. Not because you're at fault, but because you deserve better. And John deserves a lesson. No one who's going to treat others as a stepping stone, no one who's going to use others as nothing more than an emotional punching bag, to view them as something less than so that they can feel better, does not deserve your friendship. They deserve to look in the mirror and see who they are. To see that their actions are the reason why no one wants to be around them. Because I can tell you right now, my friend, the moment you walk away, the moment you step away and stop being his victim, he will find someone else in that friend group, and then their eyes will be open to who he is. Because until he grows up, until a bully changes and realizes that they are the monster and they are the reason, and that their actions determine who they are, they will never see it. So, what are you hoping for? What are you sticking around for? When you deserve so much better, when there is so much better out there to be had, to be seen. People who deserve the label of friend. People who will not treat you like some fair weather and simply act friendly towards you when the need suits them. Because a true friend, a good friend, is always going to be there, is always going to be your friend. Through the good times, through the bad times. Those are the people that you know will stay in your life and are worth your time. And when they simply walk away when you're having trouble, then you will know that they weren't worth your time at all. And though they were here for some moments, they will not be there for others. And you need to be ready to let them go, as difficult as that might be. And there's also things that come into play in situations like this when it comes to people who have been bullied and their victims and those that are pulling away from them. And although there are times where we may think that they grow and want to be our friend, it's also having an understanding that we have the control to choose who belongs in our life and who doesn't. And I don't mean to say this in a way that tells you that it is hopeless. No. What I mean to tell you is that your time is finite, and within that, you need to cherish every moment and not waste time being there for people who aren't there for you, and not try to hope for something better that obviously won't be there, because their actions show you. Their words mean nothing if what they do doesn't coincide. And how you do the little things speaks volumes to how you do everything. And if it is only behind closed doors that he treats you like a friend, but in the public eye, he treats you like a nuisance, that tells you everything that you need to know about that so-called friendship. Familiarity over time is not an excuse for them to stay in your life if they don't belong there. And that is something that you need to determine, because your time, your mind, and your heart are all gifts, and they need to be treated thusly. And only you will know how much respect you truly deserve. But you can't sit there and wait for someone to give it to you. Nor can you sit there and expect them to give it to you. But when you find someone who is genuinely willing to be on your level and willing to have you on their level, then that is someone you cherish. But I'm sorry, from what it sounds like, John is just a bully, evolving in their bullyhood, not in their maturity. And you need not be there for that journey. Because, yes, true friends stick through thick and thin, but if they've never been a true friend, then why would you treat them like one? Because they've never given you that consideration. Their consideration for you is nothing more than an object for their validity. That is all they truly see you as when it comes down to brass tacks. Because if they didn't see you that way, they wouldn't treat you this way. They would treat you with respect. They would treat you like a human being, no matter who was there. If their ego requires them to seem better than you, then they don't see you as equal. They don't see you as a friend if they need to be better than you. A friend doesn't need to be better than you. No, a true friend wants to be there for you, to be there with you, just as much as they want you to be there for them and be with them. But it starts with you considering yourself and realizing you deserve so much more. And your friend group, if they are not willing to stick by you because you decided to stand up for yourself, they don't deserve you. And you deserve better than them. Because if they are your friends, then not only will they understand, they will be proud of you for standing up for yourself. For saying that you will no longer be a victim to somebody just because you want to acquiesce to them for their acceptance, when you don't need their acceptance. You never needed anybody's acceptance. The only thing you needed was to live and to be you. And as you live life as yourself, as you grow as yourself, you will find people who want to stick around and who are worth your time. But don't waste time trying to make others worth your time, because you can't change them. They gotta change because they want to. Anything else is nothing more than surface level bullshit. And you deserve better than that with your time. You do. And I hope you realize that. I truly do. And I hope that those of you that have watched today's episode have found a value in what I have said. And I truly do appreciate you for joining us for today's Fahzaly Advice. Thank you so very much. And of course, love train rolling on through. Choo choo. I love every single frigging one of you.
Well, everybody, that's the end of Fahzaly Advice. I hope you did enjoy this episode and you found some value in what I said. And of course, if you are interested in participating, if you need some advice or some perspective, feel free to email the address at the end of this part. And remember, all submissions are 100% anonymous. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Need some perspective? Need some advice? Want your submission read on podcast? Well, email Fahza at fahzalyadvice@gmail.com. And remember, all submissions are 100% anonymous unless requested upon.